Zoom recording. And from the beginning, let them in. All right, welcome everybody to another edition of Think with a Drink. This is the weekly webinar series brought to you by the ARIES Foundation for Financial Education. Craig, hopefully I got the music going on that one.
Because
I was like, I don't know if I remembered to do that or not. So I was glad that that worked. So this week's topic, all right, clearly we are in June now, so everybody's thinking about getting away for the summer. So we want to do a little tips and tricks, things to do to hopefully take some of the stress out of your summer vacation. Dealing with your family and your kids is not something we can help you with, unfortunately. We're going to talk to more on the financial side of things and the planning side to deal with that.
So you need a vacation from your vacation. That's what you need.
That's usually how it works, right? I need a vacation from my vacation. Okay, so real quick, we told you the Think with a Drink is brought to you by the ARIES Foundation for Financial Education. You can find us on the web at ariesfoundation.org. We are a nonprofit. Our mission is trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money. My name is Tom Alessi. I am the president of the ARIES Foundation. I have been in financial services for 24 years. I'm an investment advisor. That means that I act as a fiduciary whenever giving guidance or advice to any of my clients. I want to bring my vice president. Craig, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Craig Richardson. I'm the vice president of the ARIES Foundation. I've been in financial services a little over 19 years now, and I specialize in working with families to help them define their financial goals and have a better relationship with their money.
Terrific. And so Craig will be chiming in as we go along. If there are questions, you can drop them into the chat box. He's happy to try to answer them or throw them out and see if it's something that we want to discuss as far as the group is concerned. Just know we do record these. We share them on our YouTube channel. We share them on the website. So all we ask is that if you're ever going to share them, you do so in an educational manner. Okay, we got through that part, Craig. Now we get to the fun part of this. So we call this Think with a Drink because the concept for us is that financial services, money, finances tends to be rather, Craig, intimidating for some folks and certainly challenging or overwhelming in some cases.
It's not usually the first thing people choose to tackle on a Monday morning. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to deal with that. What we get a lot is we're pushing it off into the future. I don't want to deal with it now. So we thought, what can we do to make this a little bit more casual, a little bit more relaxed? And we can't think of a better way to do that than if we have something cold to sip on. And Craig, for this one, I got a fun one. I got Stately Dark from our friends at Treehouse.
Wow, that's so funny. Okay.
So this was interesting because Craig and I inevitably wound up at Treehouse. God bless how that happens so often with us and just wound up there. But I was drinking Stately Dark. Craig was drinking Stately Light, right? You had the light version of this. And I know for anybody out there, this is a summer show. So you're like, why are you drinking this crazy beer, right? But actually, Stately is a fairly light, is to say that, right? It's only 4% ABV. Like there's not a lot of alcohol content behind this, but it's for those who want something that's excellent to just sip on, relax, enjoy, refreshing in the summer months, but still, Craig, go to the dark side. What are you drinking tonight?
Funny, because I actually went the opposite direction because I saw you did this a couple of weeks ago. I'm drinking Jack's Abbey Bright as Hell.
So, the Bright as Hell, yes.
You went dark, I went bright. There you go.
Yeah, you're drinking the Hells. So very nice. That's a good one. So that one's good for the summer. So anyway, skål. Yeah, see, light, bubbles, refreshing, but you get that dark. Okay, moving on. So the agenda, right? A lot of this has to do with sort of forethought and planning. but we'll talk a little bit about the ins and outs of going through that and some of the challenges that might come up as you go through it and things to be thinking about or considering when you're doing it, you know, as far as going through and planning any type of a trip. Why is the next screen? Oh yeah, I know why. Because I'm going to drop a question on you, Craig.
Okay.
So we don't ever really do a poll question, but I always just sort of throw them out to Craig when we're doing them. So where are you headed this summer? You got any plans, any trips planned, anything that you've got on your itinerary that you're saying, hey, I'm taking a trip this summer?
I do. I have 2 trips planned this summer.
Wow, 2. Well, we only want to talk about 1 because I don't want 2 is just now my head is swimming.
Okay, so let's go with the kids in tow trip then. We are driving down to Disney World.
Disney World. See, now Disney World, that's probably like a big, like for a lot of families, that's a destination play, right? That's something like I got to take the kids at least go, you know, at some point, take them to Disney World, got to see Mickey and Minnie and all the rest of the crew and do all that stuff. There's a lot involved there, right? So there's a lot of planning to go through with that. And we'll sort of talk you through it as we do this. But before we do, let's talk about stress, right? The whole idea of stress, right? So, you know, stress is, you know, generally how we react under pressure, right? Or when we feel threatened, right? And it's really for us, we talk a lot of people about financial stress, Craig, right?
We do all the time. Yes.
You know, which is really the worry, the fear, your anxiety about your money, about your finances. That's ultimately what, you know, financial stress is, you know, can cause some additional physical responses, you know, sickness and a lot of different symptoms that can come up with that. But one of the things to be thinking about with this, when we're talking about, like Craig is talking about going to Disney World, like that's what the happiest place on earth, right? That's what you're supposed to be going to, some place that's going to make you happy and enjoyable. And, you know, this whole idea of like, I'm worried about whether I'm going to be able to pay for it or whether we're going to be able to do the things we want to do. That's where the stress comes in, I think, Craig, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think what you want to do when you have a vacation is you want to set expectations, right? And you want to set reasonable expectations. I mean, sometimes we try to do a trip and we try to cram everything in to one trip. Like, I'm never going to be back here again. We got to go on 24 hours a day. And inevitably, it happens at almost every trip I've ever been on, is something comes up that's unexpected.
Right. And we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the unexpected. We'll get to it. Absolutely. Right. In terms of dealing with that and go through it. And I think that though you sort of segue right into the whole idea with what we're talking about, right? Because, you know, when we talk about this, like Craig said, that sort of that planning ahead thing, you know, you got to really sort of, like Craig said, decide what you want your summer vacation to look like, right? You want it to be this, whether you said like, you know, I'm only going to get there once in my life. I'm going to touch every single thing I need to touch, or I'm going, I want to just relax and enjoy myself.
Yeah, it's like for us, it's an easy vacation, Disney, because we've been there a bunch of times. So there is no stress, right?
Yeah.
We know what
well, on that end of it, on the you're not worried about, you know, that you don't get to ride Dumbo, basically.
Well, I better get to ride Dumbo, but that's okay. But, you know, my kids are not little kids anymore. They're teenagers and adults. So that changes the dynamic. And I've been there many times, so I'm not trying to figure out where to go or how it works or, you know, any of those types of things. So it's some of the kind of nice thing about vacationing in a place, you know, for a second or third time, because you know,
you've been back, you've sort of seen what to do, what not to do, where to go, not to go, that type of thing. Right. And so that's sort of this with the whole idea of like, I'm trying to put this all together and now I've got to think about things and deal with it. And in some cases, you know, like Craig maybe have done, he had planned it ahead and gone through it. Sometimes summer vacations, let's face it, those could be, you know, last minute, we're off, let's go someplace, right? So there's a little bit less planning that gets involved there than you trying to go down to Disney World type of thing.
Yeah, but that can be fun too, right? That impromptu, we're going to go away for the weekend or go away for a week and you just go wing it. Once again, it's about setting expectation though. What do I want to get out of it? Why am I doing it?
Right. Right. And then the other part that's on there, right, where it talks about, you know, tours and activities. And that's the other thing that Craig had mentioned in talking about, like, again, as he said, sort of setting expectations, but more of what do you want it to look like? Because I think that's the biggest thing for people, Craig, is that's where some of that stress comes in, like almost feeling like, gee, I went away, but I didn't do everything, or I didn't get out of it what I wanted to get out of it, or I had, higher expectations. And then that leads to, certain, a feeling of like, gee, I did this thing and I'm disappointed.
Well, very, very quick story. Way back in another lifetime, I was in a tuxedo business, and I had a couple I was working with, and they, in the middle of July, they went to Aruba for their honeymoon. Well, I saw him afterwards, and when he brought the tuxedos back, I said, "How was your trip in Aruba?" He goes, "Oh my God, it was so freaking hot." I go, "It's Aruba in July. What did you think it was going to be?" Plan a little bit, know where you're going here, like you said. What do you want to get out of it?
Right. Right. And if it was, hey, look, we just wanted to go to the beach and hang out on the beach, then that's great. But, in the middle of July, you're probably going to be in better places than there.
Well, the equator, right?
Yeah. All right. So, for us at ARIES, we try not to use the word budget. We feel that budget does get a little bit sort of intimidating for people. It does make them feel like constrained and restricted. However, in this case, we're not talking about a spending budget. We're talking about creating a budget for what you are going to spend when you go away.
Instead of a budget, look at it as an allowance. What am I going to allow myself to spend?
Yes.
Vacation?
Right. Right. Because you want to get a handle on what it's going to cost. Like that's probably the biggest thing. And that's probably one of the, I think the things that can get away from folks, Craig, is like, okay, we had set up to do this, and then, oh, there's an add-on, or we can go do this thing or that thing, or there's this, event going on, and we can go see that. And, it's suddenly like spending without realizing we're having fun. I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah, like I said, I think when people plan a getaway, the two big things they look at are the travel getting there and where they're staying as being, oh, that's the whole expense. I think a lot of times they underestimate tickets to different things, whether that's to events or parks or whatever. And I think additionally, eating out and spending money on, necessities that you don't think about packing, or, just kind of comes up, things you buy because you're on vacation, that kind of stuff. Just you don't always put that in your budget. Like I said, eating out, grossly underestimated, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And it is hard to project that, but at least if you can grasp a ballpark of a number, because then you can sort of work with it and sort of figure out, because for us, a lot of this comes down to expenses and planning, right? So that's the whole idea here. If I know, all right, my budget was, and let's just say it was $5,000, it's $5,000. I can work within that. I've got the money, I've got it set aside, or I did what I needed to do so I can spend this. I come in at 5,300, okay, no big deal. But if I come in at 7,500, now it's suddenly like, wait a minute, now I got a $2,500 bill coming that I wasn't expecting, and now I got to pay this thing off. I'm into November and December now, still dealing with this debt that I created, but I wasn't prepared for.
Well, and that's the other issue, and you may have this on another slide, is how are you paying for the vacation?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And actually it's funny because one of the things that we do, right, with everyone is, like I said, ARIES is here trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money. But just understand, for those who are watching, if you've got it on the video, you can just stop the video and shoot the QR code. It opens up our calendar. You can schedule a time. It's a conversation. We just want to have a conversation with you, try to figure out if it is, hey, I'm trying to plan for the summer vacation, or maybe next year, or maybe you got a dream vacation you're trying to do. We can help with that. We can help with anything that's sort of top of mind, or really that you've been thinking about. But all you got to do is shoot the QR code, open up our calendar, schedule a time, and we're happy to talk with anybody.
Absolutely.
All right. So the next that goes sort of hand in hand with that, right, is the itinerary. Because I understand, all right, we were talking about planning it, but now this gets into, Craig, where we're talking about, all right, what are we doing? And, how are we staying, where are we staying, and how are we going to pay for this stuff as we go through that? And, some of it comes into, and it's funny there on the lower right-hand corner, because we always talk about the secret cost of pets.
Yeah.
But if you got pets, what are you going to do with them if you're traveling?
Absolutely. I just let them loose. And if they're beer when I get back, great. No.
I don't know that works for everyone in the audience, but that's okay. But generally, you got to be thinking about that. That's another cost to add on. What do we want to do? Where are we going? What are we going to do? What are we going to see? How are we going to do it? Because all of those things are going to add up and create those costs that, as Craig said, add on to just the hotel and flight type of thing.
And the other thing too is you're finding people who are taking more and more people taking their pets with them on vacation, and you're finding more and more places being pet friendly, right? But once again, if you're going to be doing this and you are taking a pet, even more reason to be planning ahead, because there's going to be less choices available to you for staying and traveling.
Yeah, exactly. And then how you deal with the dog, with the pet, whatever the pet is, in the plane and all of that stuff. And there's X number of factors that go along with it. Some of it is taking a look at and thinking about, what you're trying to incorporate into the vacation. Like I said, if it's just, hey, we want to go to the beach and hang out on the beach, okay, that's fine. But you're not going to be doing that probably 12 hours a day. Granted, I know people who do, but, more than likely, you're going to be doing other stuff. And what happens if it happens to get overcast or rainy on a day? Then what do?
You have a backup plan for your plan.
You got to have a backup plan. You got to have that itinerary that says, okay, look, might be crappy one day. Here's what we're going to do instead. Because if you're just trying to wing it, that's where you get yourself into trouble, where, I'm trying to buy stuff last minute or take an Uber to go someplace or something like that. And you wind up with more expense and more cost than you really thought about.
Or you end up in a beach area that doesn't have other things that you're interested in nearby. Like if you like museums or theaters or shopping, what's around that are other activities you want to do if you can't do the main activity.
Exactly.
Then that's when you go, oh, the trip was terrible. Because I had no side plan. It didn't go
right. Because I didn't have anything that I was thinking about. I didn't have anything I was doing. It sort of was lost. Right. I think that's the idea there, is that some people are just like, they get turned off because they're like, well, I was so focused on wanting to do this or this one thing that didn't happen. Like the whole thing was useless. And that's another cause of stress, right? So then, if you're traveling, and any type of travel, you got to have a checklist. We're big believers in checklists. We're big believers in making sure that you understand all the stuff you need to travel. And we're talking, we're not talking outside the country, though you might be going international for your summer vacation. That certainly happens for folks. That case, that's, different. We get into a different thing with the phone, between the credit cards and travel insurance and what you need for over there. What are those stupid plug things, right, Craig, that you got to change the
adapters? Yeah, right.
The adapters,
the multi-plugs. Yes,
for the phones. And then your phones, how are you going to deal with that, with the SIM cards or whatever the case may be? That's all international. But even if you're traveling just in the States, right, flying nowadays, you need the new license, right? Whatever they call that stupid thing.
Yep. What was that? I forgot what they called up top.
Yeah, but it's the new license. It's a valid license or whatever they call it, in terms of making travel. And, just making sure that you're set for where you want to go. A lot of times people will book a place to go, and then, like Craig said, not really think about what else is in the area or what else, hey, if plans sort of go awry, what do I do? Right.
Well, like you said, the other reason you want to have a checklist is if you're traveling somewhere. I mean, it's a little bit easier now that we're getting post-COVID. So you're seeing some of those. We used to have the Vax card available.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff. That was crazy.
Right. So now it's getting back to a little bit more normal. But still, are you going to be spending cash? Is everything going to be on a card? I mean, I don't know if anybody's using traveler checks anymore, but and like you said, do I have?
Very funny. I have one someplace.
Do you?
Yeah. No. I don't have no idea what we did with it. I know we had it, and then I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this? And I put it someplace, and who knows? Yeah, I even have a euro sitting right here because I never spent it.
And if you are going to be going someplace where you're going to be using your cards, did you notify the credit card company so they don't shut your card down? Right.
Very good
So,
point. Yeah, because you just want to make them aware, so there isn't that issue.
mhm.
Debit cards, the same thing, are you going to, like Craig said, travel with cash? All of these considerations, all of this stuff sort of takes a lot of the headaches that can occur out of the conversation,
Mhm.
right? And sort of, builds you up to the point like, okay, I can do this. I can just go forward and I'm good to go from here. And then, we get to the part that is, as Craig mentioned before, what can go wrong, right? So a lot of preparing for change is just that, the idea that everything you've laid out, even if you have a whole itinerary built of this is the things we want to do in places, places close. Like if you wanted to go see something, that museum may not be open that day.
Mhm.
Got to have a backup plan. Got to have something you can do instead, right? So that's just, those are like, that's the stress, Craig, of having to deal with everybody else is disappointed.
Well, the other issue too, you got to really be prepared for is, where plans can change is, especially if there's a family going on a vacation, is anybody could have some type of a health issue, from anything from a minor cold to a major issue.
Yeah.
And that can mess plans up too. I mean, I know I went to Disney World once and had a kidney stone. So that was not fun.
Yeah, I got sick in Paris. So yeah.
So the issue here though is making sure that you know how your health insurance works where you're going. Right? If it's another country, how does it work there? If you're going to another state, how does it work there? So if you do have an issue, you don't have a catastrophe because you didn't know how to handle it. Right? So changing plans is okay, but having major issues, like these are some of the things you want to make sure you got down.
Right.
Before,
Yeah, it's just always good to check that. Just always good to understand, no matter where you're going, that those plans are in place, because I think that's can really throw people off big time.
Yeah, especially internationally, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had situations. I know people that had serious health issues overseas and what they went through.
Yeah, they got to fix you there. They can just ship you back, right?
Right. And you're there for until you're able to travel at that point.
Right. So hopefully that nothing like major happens. We'll try to keep it lighter for you to keep the stress out.
Yeah.
But that's how you do it though, because if the more prepared you are, the less of an issue there is. So like, when I had that issue, the medical thing was down. There was no problem there. We were traveling with grandparents, so I could take a day off and let the kids keep doing what they wanted to do. So there was a backup plan. There was a way of dealing with it, so the family still got to enjoy the vacation. And I got pain pills, so I got to enjoy the vacation. It was fine.
In a different way. All right, so that's all on the sort of the travel. So the last part in this is, well, what about a staycation, right? Like, so for us with ARIES, we're always again trying to help everyone sort of get a better handle on, and we understand COVID was so restricting. Nobody got to travel, nobody got to go away. Last year saw a little bit of it where the lid kind of got ripped off and everybody wanted to go everywhere. Sort of staying in that mindset now this year, you're seeing a little bit of that as well. Like people are just like, I got to get away, I got to go, but that's a cost, right, Craig? That's money that's being spent, and yes, it's necessary and needed. You might be like, God bless, I got to get away type of thing, but there are a lot of things you can do to sort of set up a staycation to make it somewhat, it's not going to be the same thing, but like if you were truly just going to stay at home, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And say it's a staycation. The one thing I would say is like adamantly put down that they're the suggestion, idea, or rules, if you will, is no chores. You're not going to do anything around the house. You're not going to try to fix anything. You're not going to try to do anything, because it's a vacation.
That's hard for me to do.
Yeah, I know. I understand that. But, in terms of absolutely no interaction or work correspondence whatsoever.
Yeah.
Unless it was something you were planning on doing while you were on your vacation anyway.
Right.
Right. Plan those like you wanted to get away and go to a beach. God bless. We've got miles of seashore. Right. Take a day trip. Go to a beach you've never been to. If you're listening and unfortunately you don't have miles of coastline like we do here in Massachusetts, go find a lake,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe visit one that you've never been to.
You just tell our listeners to go jump in a lake. Is that what you just said?
Yes. I'm gonna put my ass in a lawn chair and my toes in the clay.
Well, I think one thing that did come out of COVID that I've found is a lot of people put a lot of money back into their homes because they knew they were going to be there and they wanted to be comfortable. So sometimes it's not having to pack a suitcase, deal with hotels and, you know, reservations and all that stuff is kind of nice. And like I said, we happen to be in New England. So there's everything to do in New England where day trips can be fantastic. It's just a matter of trying to do something out of your ordinary. Getting
Right.
out of
There's something that you haven't done before, or maybe visit, like you said, you know, again, we're fortunate here, but in some other state, you might have another state or another city that's, you know, a 2-hour ride away that you've never been to.
like if you live in Death Valley, right?
Well, okay, that's a different story. You know, that's a little out there for us, but
Or
it
Nome,
might be
Alaska.
just something as simple as that, like going to visit some town or city that you've not visited before, right? Or finding a state park that you've never been to that's in the area. I mean, all of these things you can do that sort of gives you that I'm away, you know, you don't have to bring the phone, though, unless you want to take pictures type of thing. Like again, it's sort of trying to break the I'm close by, so I'm still going to work or do things or that type of thing. You're sort of putting the blinders on and just saying, no, I'm on vacation.
Absolutely. And especially today, when you're drinking margaritas in the pool, it's a good thing to do at home. No traveling,
No travel,
no driving, right?
no
So
driving.
lots of ways to enjoy yourself.
So I am drinking Stately Dark, so it is low alcohol content, so it's
Also,
okay.
saying, yeah, but you still shouldn't be driving when you've been drinking.
But I'm driving this plane.
Although I heard in the news just yesterday that they're might be changing the law in Massachusetts where you can get a to-go drink from a lounge.
Get out.
Yeah, I swear to God, it was like a 2-second blip on the news. I'm like, what the hell is that about? And then I never heard any. I had to do something else.
I know they during the pandemic you were allowed to purchase alcohol to bring home. So like you could
go cocktail, a mixed cocktail you can take home. Right.
Right. No, but this was like you could buy a bottle of wine off the restaurant and bring it home with you with your meal because you couldn't sit down and drink it there.
Right, but I think now you can actually buy a mixed drink and take it home with you. I don't know how they deal with the open container issue, but
I guess you have to keep the lid on it.
keep that.
I don't know. That's weird. I have to look at that. I don't know. I'd rather.
I thought we were starting to stop drunk driving in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. That is a little bit on the other side of things there. All right, so that was everything we had for Take the Stress Out of Summer Vacation. Like we said, for anybody out there, you know, if you do have any type of financial stress in your world, you know, feel free to, you know, click on the QR code, just schedule a time. We're happy to have a conversation. That's what we do. So what the foundation is entirely built for is trying to just have those conversations, trying to help everybody get a little bit more, I don't know what Craig say, a step away from the emotional component of their money.
Yeah, a little distance from your emotions and your money, right?
Yeah.
Try to separate the two a little bit because we get so wrapped up in it. I mean, some stress is natural and normal, but you know, when you're getting to a stress where you're having trouble sleeping, you're worrying about your bills, you're worried about this vacation coming up, how you're going to pay for it. You know, those are the things. It's time to have a conversation with somebody.
Right. So we keep the Think with a Drink theme going with what's on tap, what's coming up. So in this conversation of, you know, taking the stress out of summer vacation, we're going to take the stress out of where do you want to retire. So last year we did a whole section on where in the world and the best places to retire. So now we want to talk about the worst places to retire in the USA. And it's not going to be so much, hey, this place really sucks, but it's going to be like, you know, you want to go here, but, you know, between the cost of living and this and that, you might look at this other location, you know, a similar type of situation, but it's got better healthcare, less cost of living, that type of thing. So it won't truly be beating up on some locations. And then on 615, we're doing student loans because the debt ceiling thing just happened. And the debt ceiling, part of that whole negotiation was that they would lift the pause on the student loan repayments.
So you never know.
who knows what's going to happen with it, but we just want to talk about the whole student loans and repayments and what's going on and where that's headed and how to, you know, because a lot of people haven't been paying for the last 2 years, and hopefully they've been putting money aside just to get ready to do this.
Mhm.
And then if you ever do have questions, like I said, you can always visit us on the website. It's ariesfoundation.org. You can email us, info@ariesfoundation.org. But the easiest thing to do, and again, if you're watching it later on in the video, just hit that QR code and just schedule a time to meet with us. And on that, I am going to say thanks and have a great evening.